Check 1 2 1 2. Here we go. You are now listening to the greatest, Taharkabey. This is Moorish World TV. Oh, you say you want the truth? Well, I'm gonna give you the truth. I'm gonna give you the truth today. Let's go.
There was conversation during the time of Dr. Khalid's death that he was assassinated. I'm pretty sure you heard those comments. What have you to say about that?
I would say that there was an assassination attempt on his life in May of 1994. So we can say that he had been under assassination attempt. When you read his FBI files, you can say that he's targeted by the FBI for neutralization because of his radicalism. And so when the person says that Khalid Muhammad was assassinated, or we think he was assassinated, we have to take that seriously. As a matter of fact, we cannot even rule it out. We cannot rule it out. So therefore, I think the final chapter of the book, my final chapter, it's called Transition, and it details all that I know about his death and all that happened at the hospital and his formal cause of death and the autopsy reports and the blood test that tests for poisoning called the toxicology reports. It outlines all that. It also mentions other strange occurrences that were occurring in Atlanta. Khalid Muhammad Minister Khalid Muhammad was incarcerated in Atlanta in 1987. And the records show that the FBI was focused on him and intent in that Atlanta area of establishing FBI operations against him. And they ultimately captured him under the buying a home under false pretenses with another social security number. That's another subject we get into. Khalid Muhammad, there's white law and then there's black law as defined by Khalid Muhammad. It's another subject. Khalid Muhammad did not respect white law. He respected black law and divine law. And if he had to get him a house, he was going to do what the hell he had to do. That's another subject. Right. Brothers and sisters can relate to it. But anyway, Khalid Muhammad, what was the question again?
Oh man, I was following you. This is just good conversation. Was the talk about him being assassinated?
Assassinated. Okay, so he was a previous candidate for assassination. He's an FBI target. He passes from what the medical report says is a cerebral hemorrhage or a brain stroke. He did have certain medical conditions, but we are not 100% certain that that's the cause of death, because there's just other suspicious occurrences. Around him in Atlanta at that time, when he's coming up strong as the chairman, he's living in Atlanta, and there's a lot of suspicious people around him in Atlanta at the time of his passing. One suspicious occurring is that me trying to spearhead his investigation. First of all, I had nothing to do with his life support. Khalid Muhammad was on life support when I found him in Atlanta a week before the life support was ended. All decisions about whether to continue his life support was left with his nearest of kin, which was his sister and his son, and they made a determination based on the medical evidence that nothing was responding at all. He wasn't responding at all in a week. I mean, nothing. But I had nothing to do with it. That's number one. So then we get to testing. We get the blood. We get the autopsy results. Then we get the toxicology test from the GBI, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. But we said we can't just let the GBI tell us what happened, because the GBI is connected to the FBI. We can take what they say. They may be credible, but still we have the people to be accountable to. So the GBI had the blood and their test came back, and their test came back negative. But we got another set of the same blood from the hospital, and we gave it, and we had another independent toxicologist we hired. And then we had one of Khalid Muhammad, supposedly his right-hand assistant in Atlanta. Someone he said, I trust 1,000,000%. And so she's supposed to take the blood from us and get it to the toxicologist who we hired and coming in and so forth. And what happens? We never saw her again with that blood. I mean, completely disappeared. That was strange, you know, because we're trying to do the double test on the blood. That was strange. We got the body up to New York to bury Dr. Khalid, and before I can get to the airport and before our men from the national team can get to the airport to get the body off the plane, it's intercepted. We don't even know how the hell they knew. Some weird, we believe they're agents, Black Panther uniform and all, was at the damn airport and at the body when it came off the plane, along with Eric Muhammad of the Nation of Islam, a longtime Khalid Muhammad supporter. But we had fell out with Eric because Eric went to that casket too with that suspicious man, and they were taking photos of the body. And then when we as the Panther Party got to New York for the funeral, we was pissed.
So Eric Muhammad was at the what they would call it, the on the tarmac with the body before y'all go, before you get there?
Well, any of us got there. We got pictures of Eric Muhammad and this dude and another man with the Atlanta chapter who we believe is an informant, and they're right there. I guess they thought that they were going to find something that ahead of us, or I guess, I don't know about the agent. Let's give Eric the benefit of the doubt. Let's just say Eric was a fanatic and he loved Khalid Muhammad. But anyway, he violated our protocol because he violated our protocol. So without getting too much into that, because that came out in the New Black Panther newspaper, and some of it's going to be repeated here. I think that's where
that book.
I don't think Eric had ill intentions, but he did some risky shit, and he ended up running. He ended up running in the streets from the Black Panthers that day, around that funeral time. And the other man came into the private, we caught him in a private meeting, and I'll let you read the book to see what happened to him when we caught his ass in that private meeting. I say all this to say that it's suspicious stuff that's going on. And so I do not rule out assassination. You know, I don't have firm evidence of it, but I don't rule it out based on who he is, what he was doing, what the FBI was pursuing, and just other funny stuff. You know, he has a beautiful wife that he marries, a beautiful wife at the time, but he's just married to her. And it seemed like she chokes when it comes to getting him emergency treatment.
Right.
You know, like
I've heard that too.
I'll detail it, but when it comes to giving him the emergency treatment timely, that either she chokes in the moment and doesn't call for the timely medical assistance.
Right. So was his wife ever a member of the Nation of Islam, or he didn't marry her while he was in the Nation of Islam, or was she a practicing Muslim?
No connection with the Nation of Islam. She's a very successful Black woman. Well, she's a successful Black woman who was a fashion and shoe retailer. And she was bad. I mean, she's a good, she's a very intelligent, good-looking woman. I mean, she had no connection with the Nation of Islam. She just was Khalid Muhammad. Khalid Muhammad was in love with that woman. And I got to be honest, she did some good things with Khalid Muhammad and for Khalid Muhammad. So I don't, we'll see how it comes out. You know, I charged her before. I charged her in the New Black Panther Party report with being grossly negligent in this situation. Maybe she's just negligence. Maybe I don't necessarily ascribe to her a sinister motive. I don't say that his wife was maybe an agent or she was working with the Jews or any of that. As far as I get with her is negligence or gross negligence. Having a duty to do something, knowing what could happen if you don't do it, failing to do it, and injury results. Now and then we'll just read the rest of it. Because I mean, in her defense, then the doctor said, well, Khalid Muhammad, even if he would have had timely medical attention, that he would have had a stroke and he would have lost some of his function. You see, and me and you knowing that Muhammad is a soldier, the man I know, Khalid Muhammad, is not apt to be wanting to be driven around in some wheelchair or not being able to talk, because he gonna be pissed because the Nation of Islam is gonna come saying, well, you got chastised, that's why you can't talk, and that's why you ain't you can't walk or whatever. They would just be going in on Muhammad, you know? I mean, they going in on Muhammad now. They probably say that Muhammad died. One of the Nation of Islam positions is that Muhammad died because he deviated from Allah and following Minister Louis Farrakhan. That is one Nation of Islam position, not my position.
Well, let me say this. When you were with our brother, the minister, Khalid Muhammad, was he fairly healthy, brother? Did he eat right? Did he?
You know, Muhammad's a good looking man, always. Muhammad never took a drink. He never smoked. Yet Muhammad had hypertension that ran in his family. Muhammad did have severe hypertension. I mean, that thing would be up there sometimes. 220 over 1, whatever, at different times. So, you know, we have to establish the records. Right? At one point in time, I think Hashim Nzinga, it's recounted in my book, had took him to the doctor not too long before he passed, and the doctor said he was a walking time bomb. They wanted him to be on high blood pressure pills all the time. Muhammad didn't like high blood pressure pills for certain reasons. Okay, so I can't say that Muhammad was perfectly healthy. I can say that Muhammad had good habits about him. Like before the Million Youth March, he would like fast for like 10 days. He would like be going on long fasts. He wouldn't do nothing but drink. So he would get off, you know, he had good health habits. I think he suffered from stress. He certainly in the last 7 years of his life suffered from like a stress and frustration. He was constantly frustrated about the Nation of Islam situation. So I can't say he was in grade A health. I can't say he was in grade A health. I couldn't say he was in poor health. His diet, you know, we never ate much. We was never just big go to restaurant, big meal people anyway. We was always doing something. Right. But we didn't eat much. But when we ate, it was anything but the hog.
Yeah.
I can't say that. I never saw him eat a lobster. I never saw him eat shellfish. But I mean, he loved him some fried chicken, and he was gonna eat him some meat. And we just ate like anybody else, except eating the hog. And he wasn't gonna eat lobster or shrimp or nothing like that. But man, the brother just ate, man.
Right.
You know, he ate. I look at his life like this as we conclude, that his life ran its course. See, when you read what I'm going to give you, you see that this man had so many experiences. He did so much. He taught so many that at 53, he fulfilled lives up to 203. See what I'm saying? So I don't take him as being chastised. I say he came here and did what he was divinely appointed to do, and he, for divine reasons, was out of here. Yeah. But that man, if any man can do what he did in 53, and you see how his legacy is living on to these days, man. You know, he's great, and I'm
glad. Let me tell you something, brother. I can quote some of them speeches from beginning to end. At one time, I was real good with it. I was real good with it. And I'm telling you, he inspired me. He inspires me today to push. See, because Moors are, I don't want to say Moors are hesitant to tell it like it is.
Mm-hmm.
Moors like to be intellectually, politically correct. You know, and that's the brothers in the temple or the sisters in the temple. But then you got the ones on the internet, in which I discussed with you about that. Nah, if they talking about this sovereignty and all that stuff, their concepts of sovereignty is out there and has nothing to do with the Moorish Science Temple of America. Their concepts is predicated upon the European sovereign citizen doctrine, not liberation and independence. For if I file a piece of paper to the European that oppressed me, I done just gave him some power. Let me go, please. You know, so that's another thing in the internet thing. But I just want to say, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, he inspired me to be bold with my message. Amen. And because I understand certain principles of delivering a message, I use just enough Dr. Khalid to go up to that line, but not jump over it. You understand what I'm saying? I go right up to the line. Matter of fact, you can hear me today. If you go to my channel, if you go to the on Facebook, my last 5 minutes, I goes in hard and I walks right up to the line, and I'm talking about how Moors are trying to French kiss Moroccans. Because the Moroccans there today are not the ancient Moroccans of yesterday. Those are French people that's calling themselves Muhammad, and by default, you want to call yourself a Moroccan of today with the nation state of Morocco, and by default, you want to French kiss these Europeans. And so I walk straight up to the line, and that comes from me listening to Dr. Khalid Muhammad. But in closing, brother, we got to do this again once the book come out. And I would like to go live with you before I drop this whole demonstration.
The first hand-signed hardback copies.
Yeah. And then I would like to do a review with you on the book. I would love to do a review with you on the book.
Sure.
I'm an avid reader, and I know the story of Dr. Khalid Muhammad from the outside looking in, so I'm really looking forward to that. But in closing, what do you think you're going to achieve from this book, or what do you wish to achieve from this book? Because you know you're going to stir a lot of people up. You stirred me up when you mentioned the Moors. But we friends. You're my brother, and I respect you as my brother first.
Yes.
But now we can get into difference of opinion later. But what do you expect to achieve from this? Is some serious information going to rub some people the wrong way, brother?
It is. But it's more than just that. And the reason why I take time is because I know that you're an avid reader, and I know I got plenty of scientists that are going to search every paragraph, and they're going to look at every footnote. And so instead of having to try to correct something later, I'm putting all my effort into right now being as thorough as possible from the research perspective. What will we achieve? Number one is people who love Khalid Muhammad, like yourself and others. You will have a true biography and work of him that is befitting of him, and that it will make the supporters of Khalid Muhammad very happy. That's number one. Those that respect and honor him, and I believe that there are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands that respect him. Number two will introduce this new generation to Khalid Muhammad, and it will expand his reach into many, many millions of these new brothers and sisters who are coming into consciousness and knowledge of self, and they get the full story on one of our greatest figures and everything that it pertains to. Because when you're getting Khalid Muhammad's story, you're getting a healthy dose of Louis Farrakhan's career, you're getting a healthy knowledge of the Nation of Islam, you're getting a healthy knowledge of the Black Panther Party, Black nationalism, Black culture. You're getting so much in there. You're getting a healthy knowledge of Islam. And so it's good for people that want to know themselves and know their history, even if they're not Khalid Muhammad's followers. You know, I have a picture of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in there. You know, even if I don't spend long on it, I want people who read his book to know how great that man was and that Khalid Muhammad had respect for him. And I want this generation to know that Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the Moors are the first founders of organized Islam in America.
Yes, sir.
I want them to hear that from some other white scholar or somebody else. I want them to hear it from Malik Zulu Shabazz and let this generation know for it. The Nation of Islam, it's controversial, but every member of the Nation of Islam will want this book because I document in detail the history of the Nation of Islam in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s like no one has. And yes, there are some times of incongruence, but what about all the times of congruence? What about all the great times? I want to be clear with you that even though some of this discussion pertains to conflict between Louis Farrakhan and Khalid Muhammad, Louis Farrakhan himself is a legend. And reading his history, this man is a legend and has done many things for us and for our people that we must appreciate. That he was the beacon light of consciousness and the beacon light of waking us up for many years when we didn't have strong leadership. And so I pay deference to that. I would hope to one day when this book is written and the dust settles that to sit down with Minister Louis Farrakhan, because I believe that when he reads it, he will know that this book is the truth, or it is the truth as far as it is Khalid Muhammad's view on life. You see what I'm saying? And that he's going to respect it. So I expect to step into the world of authorship, my brother. I expect to step out here with the world of the Cornel West and in the past, the Breast of Soul, Toni Morrison's and the others. I honestly think that I have one of the greatest books of our era, literally, greatest history books of our era. I mean, this thing is 120,000 words, it's hundreds of pages, I'm exhausting everything over here, man. I mean, there's nothing.
If you like this interview, please subscribe, share, and like. You say you want the truth, and I'm gonna get the truth for you.
Check 1 2 1 2. Here we go. You are now listening to the greatest, Taharkabey. This is Moorish World TV. Oh, you say you want the truth? Well, I'm gonna give you the truth. I'm gonna give you the truth.